Our companion today on this sultry Sunday evening here in Callaway County, Kentucky is Rhus copallina, sometimes spelled copallinum. It has various common names, most commonly winged sumac, but others will call it the dwarf sumac, shining sumac, flaming sumac, or even flame leaf sumac, all owing to different characteristics of the plant. It's a member of the family Anacardiaceae, along with other sumacs and poison ivy, but thankfully, unlike many other members of that family, it does not contain the irritating oil urushiol, or at least not to a sufficient extent that would cause me to break out in irritating dermatitis in my skin. I could rub on this twig all day long and it's not going to bother me a bit. Its growth form is that it is almost always between 10 and 15 feet high. It seldom gets larger than that. You might see an individual here and there between 20 and 25 feet. A champion winged sumac would be 30 feet tall. They're not a very large tree. They typically have a slender trunk, a short trunk rather, with slender spreading branches, and in addition to propagating by seeds, they also can propagate by suckering, extending lateral shoots along the ground and giving rise to dense compact clusters or colonies of sumac trees that are common along roadsides, for example. Its habitat is that it is prevalent throughout the South, the East, and the Midwest of the United States. It's been abundant here for a long time. Linnaeus himself described the species. It is associated with dry, disturbed areas. This individual happens to be an exception to that. You may not be able to see, but it is growing along a creek bank behind me. This is a tributary to the Tennessee River. So while we often associate it with dry, disturbed areas, perhaps a better description of its habitat would be that it can tolerate any kind of soil except those that are very poorly drained or totally inundated. And in those disturbed areas that it frequents, it often co-occurs with Chinese privet. You could probably see this in the top of the frame. Do not confuse these two. These are not the same tree in this shot. They are densely entangled together, and I hope to cut this privet down after this video is over. The leaf arrangement is that the leaf is deciduous and compound, usually 8 to 12 inches long, though they can be somewhat longer. The compound leaves are alternate on the twig. Hopefully you can see here. And the leaflets themselves, there can be 7 to 21 leaflets on one leaf, a lot of variability there. The leaflets themselves are oblong to lanceolate. They are anywhere from 1 inch to 4 inches in length. The margin is entire, not serrated at all like some other sumacs. They are shiny dark green above and pale green, sometimes pubescent, underneath. And in the autumn, they will turn a bright, beautiful, spectacular red, and that is very distinctive if you're familiar with it. Again, along roadsides and in disturbed areas. The most distinctive feature of the compound leaf, which gives the winged sumac its name, is that it is winged. Along the rachis, between the leaflets, you will see these leafy outgrowths. There's really no word for them other than a wing. And that is distinctive of the winged sumac. It's very good. And my daughter has found a beautiful example of the reddish, spectacular reddish color that the leaves will take on in autumn. And I'll show you another shot of that at the end of the video. The twig is rather slender, highly variable in color. It can be anywhere from green to gray to reddish brown, rather nondescript, sometimes pubescent when it's young. A more distinctive feature of the twig, and if this shot does not turn out very well, I will include a close-up. Thank you, honey. Let's be quiet until the end of my video, please. They can bear elongated reddish-brown lenticels that on older trees or larger parts of the trunk will develop an almost warty, toadback-like character. The terminal bud is absent in the winged sumac, but in the wintertime you will find a lateral bud that is globose or spherical, hairy, and naked. I believe it's a little too early in the fall of the year to show you that bud, but the terminal bud is absent in this species. The bark, rather nondescript, gray to reddish brown, thin. You can scrape it off with your thumbnail. And I want to reference again the elongated reddish brown lenticels all over the bark of the twigs and the trunk that can develop into warty texture as the tree ages. The flower is greenish white, small and in pubescent panicles. This is not the flower, of course. This is the fruit, but the flower takes on a very similar form and character. Imagine this being an assemblage of greenish white, very small pubescent flowers, and those appear in early summer, so they're gone now. This video is made in September. The fruit is an ovoid panicle of drupes, or I should say a pyramidal panicle of ovoid drupes that are reddish brown and about 1/8 of an inch long. Provide a closer view there, hopefully. They are highly prized by wildlife, and at the end of the year they turn a very rich red color and can almost look like licking flames coming up from the plant at a distance, and that can be very distinctive of the plant, again, at a distance. And they ripen in the fall and they persist through the winter. One last thing I would like to show you is, even on this tree, you can start to see that flaming red color starting to appear in the leaves. And as it gets later in the season, that will be very prominent, very distinctive, very showy. So that is Rhus copallina, the winged sumac.